Hi, I'm Dorothy. People tell me I'm lucky to be alive, but sometimes I'm not sure if lucky is the right word. I shifted in the hospital bed, wincing as the movement pulled at my burns. My sister Emma was in the next bed over. Her face turned toward me despite the bandages wrapped around her head. Dory, did you hear what Nurse Patel said earlier? Emma's voice was raspy from smoke damage. We might be moved to the same room at the rehabilitation center. That's something, at least. I attempted a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. Have you heard anything from Dad? Emma's eyes darted away. No, not since. The door opened and Dr. Reyes entered, followed by Nurse Patel. I'd come to recognize Dr. Reyes's purposeful stride and the way she always looked you directly in the eyes, even when delivering difficult news. How are my favorite fighters today? She asked, checking the monitors beside our beds. I'd feel better if I knew what was happening, I said. No one will tell us anything about when we can go home, or why Dad hasn't visited in days. Dr. Reyes and Nurse Patel exchanged a look that made my stomach tighten. Girls, I need to speak with you about something important, Dr. Reyes said, pulling up a chair between our beds. There's a reason your father hasn't been here. Is he hurt too? Emma asked. No, he's fine physically, Dr. Reyes said carefully. But there's been a situation regarding your care. What kind of situation? I asked, a chill spreading through me despite the constant warmth of my healing burns. Nurse Patel moved closer, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. Your father made some concerning statements about your treatment, Dorothy. Statements that were reported to hospital administration and child protective services. What statements? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Dr. Reyes took a deep breath. He expressed that the hospital should focus resources on Emma's recovery and discontinue your treatment. He said it would be cheaper to raise one child. The room seemed to tilt. Emma made a strangled sound. That's not possible, I whispered. He wouldn't. I heard him, came a voice from the doorway. It was Aunt Claire, Dad's sister, her eyes red-rimmed. I was there, Dorothy. I heard him say it and I reported it immediately. Where is he now? Emma demanded, her voice stronger than I'd heard it in weeks. He's been barred from the hospital, Aunt Claire said, moving to stand between our beds. And I've filed for emergency guardianship of both of you. This can't be real, I said, tears burning in my already damaged eyes. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, Aunt Claire said, taking my hand. But I promise you both, I'm going to make this right. How? Emma asked, her voice breaking. How can anyone make this right? By making sure you're both safe, Dr. Reyes said firmly, and by making sure there are consequences for his actions. I looked from Dr. Reyes to Nurse Patel to Aunt Claire, these three women forming a protective circle around us. What happens now? I asked, my voice small but steady. Now, Aunt Claire said, we fight for you. Both of you. 3 weeks later, Emma and I sat in our shared room at Claire's house, surrounded by the soft blues and greens she'd painted the walls during our hospital stay. A social worker named Marlene sat across from us, her notebook balanced on her knee. I know this is difficult, Marlene said, but I need to understand exactly what happened during the fire and afterward. We've told this story so many times, Emma sighed, leaning against the headboard of her bed. I know, Marlene nodded sympathetically. But your testimony is crucial for the case. Which part do you need to hear again? I asked, trying to keep the irritation from my voice. Tell me about the conversations you had with your father before the fire, Marlene said. Anything that might help us understand his state of mind? Emma and I exchanged glances. He was different after Mom died, I offered. Distant. He started saying things about how expensive everything was. What kind of things? Marlene pressed. He complained about my asthma medication, Emma said quietly. Said it was draining his bank account. When Dorothy needed braces last year, he refused. Said she could live with crooked teeth. Did he ever express favoritism between you two? I looked at Emma, who nodded slightly. He called Emma the easy one. I said. Said I was just like Mom. Too emotional, too expensive. A knock at the door interrupted us. Claire entered with a tray of hot chocolates, followed by Dr. Reyes, who'd become a frequent visitor. Sorry to interrupt, Claire said, setting down the tray. But Dr. Reyes has some news. What is it? Emma and I asked simultaneously. Dr. Reyes sat on the edge of my bed. The Hospital Ethics Committee has completed their investigation. They found clear evidence of your father attempting to influence your medical care in ways that violated standard protocols. What does that mean? I asked. It means, Marlene interjected, that we have professional testimony to support the case for permanent custody transfer. There's something else, Dr. Reyes continued. A nurse who was working the night of the fire came forward. She overheard your father talking to his friend in the waiting room, saying the fire started because he'd been cutting corners on electrical work to save money. He knew the wiring was faulty? Claire's voice rose in shock. He said he'd been meaning to fix it, Dr. Reyes confirmed. This could potentially lead to criminal negligence charges. Will we have to testify against him? Emma asked, her voice trembling. Will we have to see him? Not necessarily, Marlene assured her. Your written statements might be enough, and if court appearances are required, we can request special accommodations. What if he tries to talk to us? I asked. What if he comes here? He won't, Claire said firmly. The restraining order prevents that. But what if he does anyway? Emma insisted. What if he tries to take us back? Dr. Reyes leaned forward. Emma, Dorothy, listen to me. What your father did, what he said, has been documented by multiple medical professionals. He won't be making decisions for either of you again. How can you be sure? I whispered. Because too many people know the truth now, Marlene said. And we're all standing with you. 6 months after the fire, Emma and I sat in a small conference room at the family court. Claire sat between us, her hand resting protectively on my arm. Across the table sat our father's attorney, a thin man named Mr. Peterson. And next to him, for the first time since that terrible night, was our father. He looked smaller somehow. His eyes kept darting toward us, then away. Let's begin, said Judge Winters, a stern-looking woman who had been reviewing our case. This is a hearing to determine permanent guardianship for Dorothy and Emma Bennett, following the emergency placement with their aunt, Claire Bennett. Your Honor, Mr. Peterson began. My client acknowledges some unfortunate statements made during a time of extreme stress, but he loves his daughters and wants them home. Unfortunate statements? Dr. Reyes, who was seated behind us, muttered under her breath. Our father leaned forward. Girls, this has all been a terrible misunderstanding. I was just worried about finances, about providing the best care. I never meant— Mr. Bennett, Judge Winters interrupted. Please address the court, not the minors. I just want my daughters back, he said, his voice breaking. I've fixed the house. I've been taking parenting classes. I made a terrible mistake. I felt Emma trembling beside me and took her hand. Your Honor, Claire said, I'd like to request that the girls be allowed to speak. Judge Winters nodded. If they wish to. Emma looked at me, her eyes wide. I nodded and stood up first. I want to say something, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. When I was in the hospital in pain, fighting to breathe, my father told doctors to let me die because it would be cheaper to raise just Emma. Dorothy, honey, I was overwhelmed, my father started. I'm not finished, I continued, staring directly at him. For years, you made me feel like a burden, like I wasn't worth the space I took up or the resources I needed. The fire just revealed what was always there. That's not true, he protested. I love you both equally. Emma stood beside me. Then why did you call me the easy one? Why did you complain about my asthma medicine but spend hundreds on your fishing trips? Why did you tell Nurse Jenkins that Dorothy was just like her mother and not worth the trouble? Our father's face crumpled. I was overwhelmed after your mother died. I didn't mean those things. Please, girls. Everyone deserves a second chance. I felt an unexpected calm wash over me. You're right. Everyone deserves a chance to be safe and valued. That's what we've found with Aunt Claire. Your Honor. Your Honor, our lawyer interjected. We have extensive documentation of Mr. Bennett's neglectful behavior predating the fire, including failure to maintain a safe home environment and denial of necessary medical care. I've fixed all that now, our father insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. I've changed. Girls, please tell them you want to come home. Emma and I exchanged glances before I turned back to him. That house isn't our home anymore, and you gave up being our father the moment you decided one of us was expendable. All rise, the bailiff called as Judge Winters entered the courtroom for the final hearing 3 months later. We stood, Emma's hand clutching mine. Claire stood beside us, steady as always. The past 9 months had been a blur of therapy sessions, court dates, and healing, both physical and emotional. Be seated, Judge Winters said, arranging papers before her. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony in this matter, I'm prepared to issue my ruling on the petition for permanent guardianship of Dorothy and Emma Bennett. Our father sat at the other table, shoulders hunched. He'd made multiple attempts to contact us, despite the restraining order, leaving voice messages and letters with increasingly desperate pleas for forgiveness. Mr. Bennett, Judge Winters addressed him directly, your actions demonstrated a profound failure of parental duty. The court finds clear and convincing evidence that you knowingly created unsafe living conditions that resulted in serious injury to your children and subsequently attempted to influence medical care in a manner that would have resulted in harm. He began to protest, but she held up her hand. Furthermore, your pattern of emotional neglect and favoritism created an environment of conditional love that no child should experience. The petition for permanent guardianship is granted to Claire Bennett, with no visitation rights for the biological father at this time. The courtroom seemed to exhale collectively. Emma leaned against me, tears streaming down her face. Dorothy, Emma, Judge Winters continued, her voice softening slightly. Do you wish to address the court before we conclude? Emma shook her head, but I stood. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. I just want to say that what happened to us was wrong. But what's happening now feels right. Aunt Claire has shown us what real family means. It means everyone matters equally. I turned slightly toward our father. I hope someday you understand what you did. Not just the fire or what you said at the hospital, but all the small ways you taught us we had to earn the right to be loved. Later, as we left the courthouse, Dr. Reyes and Nurse Patel were waiting outside with a small group of hospital staff who had supported us throughout the process. You did it, Dr. Reyes smiled, embracing us both carefully, mindful of our still healing scars. No, Claire corrected her gently. We did it. All of us. That evening, Emma and I sat on the porch swing of Claire's house. Our house now, officially. The spring air was warm against my skin, which had finally begun to heal enough that I could feel gentle breezes again. Do you think we'll ever talk to him again? Emma asked quietly, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. I don't know, I answered honestly. Maybe someday, but not until we're ready, and only if we both want to. I still have nightmares about the fire, Emma confessed, her voice barely audible. I wake up thinking I can smell smoke. Me too, I admitted. Dr. Morris says that's normal, that trauma leaves imprints on our minds just like the burns left marks on our skin. How long do you think it'll take? For the nightmares to stop? I shrugged. I don't know, but Dr. Morris also said healing isn't linear. Some days are better than others. Claire brought out mugs of tea and settled into the chair beside us. You know, she said, your mother would be so proud of you both, not just for surviving, but for standing up for yourselves and each other. I wish she could see us now, Emma said. I think maybe she can, Claire replied, smiling gently. And I think she'd want you to know that your story isn't just about what happened to you. It's about what happens next. Speaking of what happens next, I said, turning to Claire. Dr. Reyes mentioned something about a support group for teen survivors. kids who've been through fires or other traumatic events. Would you be interested in that? Claire asked. I think so, I nodded. If Emma would go with me. Of course I would, Emma said immediately. We're a package deal, remember? Always have been, I smiled, squeezing her hand. You know, Claire said thoughtfully, the house next door is going up for sale. I was thinking when you girls are ready for college, it might be nice to have a place close by. Somewhere you could stay during breaks, or even live if you choose a local school. You'd do that for us? Emma asked, eyes wide. In a heartbeat, Claire said without hesitation. You're my family now, and family means no one gets left behind. Or forgotten, I added, thinking of our mother. We sat in comfortable silence as night fell. 3 women bound not just by blood but by choice. The choice to protect, to heal, and to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. You know what, Em? I said finally, looking up at the stars appearing one by one in the darkening sky. I think I feel lucky after all. Lucky how? She asked. Lucky to have you. Lucky to have Claire. Lucky to have found out what real love looks like, I said. And lucky to have a second chance to build a life where we both matter. Emma leaned her head against my shoulder. Me too, Dory. Me too.